The Arrogant Alien Lecturer. The Grand Lecture Hall of the Galactic University of Studies buzzed with anticipation. Beings from 1,000 worlds filled the tiered seats, their varied forms a testament to the diversity of life in the cosmos. Holographic displays flickered to life, bathing the auditorium in a soft, azure glow. At the center of it all stood Dr. Zix, the most renowned historian in the Andromeda galaxy. Dr. Zix's iridescent scales shimmered as he adjusted his posture, his 4 eyes scanning the audience with barely concealed disdain. He was here to deliver his most controversial lecture yet. The Primitive Paradigm: Why Humans Will Never Join the Galactic Community. As the last of the attendees settled into their seats, a hush fell over the crowd. Dr. Zix cleared his throat, a sound reminiscent of grinding gears. Esteemed colleagues, honored guests, he began, his voice amplified by the room's acoustic enhancers. Today, we delve into the fascinating yet ultimately disappointing saga of Earth and its dominant species, humans. In the back row, 2 exchange students from Earth, Aisha Patel and Marcus Chen, exchanged worried glances. They had come to the Galactic University as part of the first ever human exchange program, eager to learn and share knowledge. Now, they found themselves the subject of what promised to be a scathing critique. Dr. Zix continued, his tone dripping with condescension. These beings, barely out of their planetary cradle, have the audacity to believe they are ready for interstellar society. But let us examine the facts. A holographic projection of Earth appeared above the lecture podium, slowly rotating. Dr. Zix gestured towards it with one of his tentacle-like appendages. Observe their world. A mere 12,742 kilometers in diameter, orbiting an unremarkable yellow dwarf star. Their history is a litany of conflict, their progress marred by destruction of their own environment. How can such a species hope to contribute to our enlightened galactic society? Aisha clenched her fists, her knuckles turning white. Marcus placed a calming hand on her arm, but his jaw was set in a hard line. Dr. Zix went on, presenting a series of images showcasing human history. Wars, environmental disasters, and social upheavals flashed before the audience's eyes. Their technology is primitive, their understanding of the universe laughably limited. They have barely scratched the surface of their own solar system, let alone mastered faster-than-light travel. Their attempts at diplomacy are clumsy at best, their cultures fragmented and often at odds with one another. The alien historian paused for effect, his eyes gleaming with smug satisfaction. In short, my esteemed colleagues, humans are a curiosity, nothing more. They are unfit for the complexities of galactic politics, the intricacies of interstellar trade, or the refined cultural exchange we enjoy among our member species. A murmur rippled through the audience. Many nodded in agreement, while others looked thoughtful or skeptical. Aisha and Marcus sat rigid in their seats, struggling to maintain their composure. But surely, a voice called out from the middle of the hall. Their rapid technological advancement in recent centuries suggests potential. Dr. Zix's laugh was like the clattering of pebbles. Potential? Perhaps in a few thousand years. But now, they are children playing with fire, more likely to burn down the galaxy than contribute to it. He turned back to the holographic display, zooming in on various regions of Earth. Look at their pitiful attempts at renewable energy, their laughable space stations. They cannot even agree on a unified planetary government. How can they possibly hope to interact meaningfully with our enlightened society? As Dr. Zix continued his lecture, detailing what he saw as humanity's every flaw and shortcoming, Aisha and Marcus felt their initial shock giving way to a simmering anger. They had come here to learn, to represent their species, to build bridges between Earth and the galactic community. Instead, they found themselves witness to a systematic dismantling of everything they believed about their potential. The lecture seemed to stretch on for hours, each new point a fresh barb aimed at humanity's heart. Dr. Zix touched on human biology, inefficient and fragile, human psychology, prone to irrational beliefs and destructive behaviors, and human society, a chaotic mess of competing ideologies. As the alien historian neared his conclusion, he adopted a tone of false sympathy. It is not that humans are without any redeeming qualities. Their tenacity, while often misguided, is admirable. Their creativity, though primitive, shows a certain charm. But these are not enough to warrant their inclusion in galactic affairs. He spread his arms wide, addressing the entire auditorium. We must face facts, colleagues. Humans are simply not ready. They may never be ready. Our duty as an enlightened galactic society is to observe, to study, perhaps to guide from afar, but to welcome them as equals. That is a fantasy as absurd as their quaint belief that they are alone in the universe. With a final nod, Dr. Zix concluded his lecture. Thank you for your attention. I welcome your questions and, undoubtedly, your agreement with my inescapable conclusions. The audience erupted into a mix of applause, excited chatter, and the occasional sound of disagreement. But for Aisha and Marcus, the noise faded into the background. They looked at each other, a silent understanding passing between them. This could not stand. Humanity deserved better. They deserved a chance to prove their worth. As the crowd began to disperse, Aisha stood up, her voice clear and strong. Dr. Zix, we challenge your conclusions. The hall fell silent, all eyes turning to the back row, where two humans stood defiantly. Dr. Zix's eyes widened in surprise, then narrowed in amusement. Ah, he said, his voice dripping with condescension. Our little human guests have something to say. This should be entertaining. Little did Dr. Zix know, he had just set in motion a series of events that would shake the very foundations of galactic society. The cosmic classroom was in session, and Earth was about to teach a lesson in humility that no one would soon forget. The challenge issued. The Grand Lecture Hall of the Galactic University of Xenostudies, moments ago a cacophony of excited chatter, now hung in stunned silence. All eyes, of varying number and composition, were fixed on the two human figures standing defiantly in the back row. Aisha Patel and Marcus Chen, the only Earthlings in a sea of alien faces, had just challenged the galaxy's most renowned historian. Dr. Zix's iridescent scales rippled with barely contained amusement. You challenge my conclusions, he asked, his voice a mix of condescension and curiosity. And how, pray tell, do two primitive specimens propose to do that? Marcus stepped forward, his voice steady despite the rapid beating of his heart. We propose a series of tests, Dr. Zix, a chance to prove humanity's worth to the galactic community. A ripple of murmurs swept through the audience. Challenges were rare in academic circles, rarer still from a species deemed unworthy of galactic citizenship. Dr. Zix's four eyes blinked in rapid succession, a sign of surprise in his species. Tests, he repeated, his tone now genuinely intrigued. You believe you can overturn centuries of observational data with a few parlor tricks. Aisha joined Marcus, her chin raised in determination. Not tricks, Doctor. Real, substantive challenges that demonstrate our species' capabilities. Physical trials, mental competitions, tests of adaptability and innovation. If we fail, we'll accept your conclusions without protest. But if we succeed, if you succeed, Dr. Zix interrupted, a note of mockery in his voice, I suppose you'll expect me to retract my entire lecture. To proclaim humans as the golden children of the galaxy. No, Marcus replied, his voice level. If we succeed, we ask only that you acknowledge humanity's potential, that you give us a fair chance to prove ourselves worthy of joining the galactic community. The lecture hall erupted into a frenzy of discussion. Species from across the galaxy debated among themselves, their varied languages creating a symphony of alien sounds. Dr. Zix raised a tentacle-like appendage, calling for silence. You realize, he said, his voice carrying a hint of warning, that such a challenge, if accepted, would be broadcast across the galaxy. That the reputation of your entire species would rest on your performance. Aisha and Marcus exchanged a glance, a moment of silent communication passing between them. They had not expected this, but the stakes only strengthened their resolve. "We understand," Aisha said firmly, "and we accept those terms." Dr. Zix's mouthparts twitched in what passed for a smile in his species. "Very well," he announced, turning to address the entire auditorium. "Let it be known that I, Dr. Zix, accept this challenge from the representatives of Earth. We shall put humanity to the test." The audience erupted into cheers, jeers, and everything in between. In the midst of the commotion, a tall, willowy being with skin like polished obsidian approached the podium. It was Chancellor Kovacs, the head of the Galactic University. "This is most irregular." The Chancellor's melodious voice cut through the noise. "But it is not without precedent. If both parties agree, the university will sanction and oversee these trials." Dr. Zix bowed his head in deference to the Chancellor. "I agree, Your Excellency. Let the humans have their chance to prove me wrong. It will only serve to reinforce my conclusions." Chancellor Kovacs turned to Aisha and Marcus. "And you, representatives of Earth, do you agree to abide by the university's oversight and accept the consequences of these trials, whatever they may be?" Without hesitation, both humans nodded. "We agree," they said in unison. "Then it is settled," the Chancellor declared. "We shall convene a panel of experts to design the trials. They will test physical prowess, mental acuity, adaptability, and diplomatic skill. The trials will commence in 3 standard galactic days." As the Chancellor spoke, holographic notices began appearing on the personal devices of every being in the auditorium. News of the impending trials spread across the university, then the planet, and soon the entire galaxy. Humanity's challenge had become the most anticipated event in recent galactic history. In the days that followed, Aisha and Marcus found themselves at the center of a whirlwind of activity. They were poked, prodded, and examined by curious xenobiologists. They were questioned relentlessly by journalists from 1,000 worlds. And all the while, they trained, studied, and prepared for the trials that would determine humanity's galactic fate. Dr. Zix, for his part, maintained his air of smug superiority. He gave interviews to galactic media outlets, reiterating his belief in humanity's inadequacy. "These trials," he told one floating, tentacled reporter, "will serve as the final nail in the coffin of human aspirations. They will learn their place in the universe." But beneath his confident exterior, a seed of doubt had taken root. The humans' boldness, their unwavering belief in their own potential, had caught him off guard. For the first time in centuries, Dr. Zix found himself questioning his own conclusions. As the day of the trials approached, the Galactic University transformed. A massive arena was constructed, capable of simulating a wide range of environments and scenarios. Stands were erected to accommodate spectators from across the galaxy. Quantum entanglement communicators were set up to broadcast the events to even the farthest reaches of known space. The night before the trials, Aisha and Marcus stood on a balcony overlooking the sprawling university campus. The alien sky, filled with unfamiliar stars and the rings of a giant planet, served as a constant reminder of how far they were from home. "Are we ready for this?" Marcus asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Aisha took a deep breath, her eyes fixed on the horizon. "We have to be," she replied. "It's not just about us anymore. It's about Earth, about humanity's future." Marcus nodded, a determined smile spreading across his face. "Then let's show them what humans can do." As they turned in for the night, preparing for the challenges that lay ahead, the galaxy held its breath. The stage was set for a contest that would challenge not just the abilities of 2 humans, but the preconceptions of an entire galactic civilization. In his private quarters, Dr. Zix pored over his notes, searching for any weakness, any flaw in the human species that he might have overlooked. For the first time in his long career, he felt the cold touch of uncertainty. Tomorrow, he knew, would change everything. The cosmic classroom was prepared, the lesson plans laid out. But who would be the teacher and who the student? As the first light of an alien dawn broke over the horizon, that question hung in the air, unanswered and heavy with possibility. Trials of body and mind. The day of reckoning had arrived. The massive arena at the heart of the galactic university hummed with an energy that was palpable, even across the vast distances of space. Billions of beings across the galaxy tuned in to witness the trials that would determine humanity's place in the cosmic order. Aisha and Marcus stood at the entrance to the arena, their hearts pounding in their chests. They wore sleek, form-fitting suits provided by the university, designed to monitor their vital signs and relay data to the judging panel. As they waited for the signal to enter, they could hear the roar of the crowd, a cacophony of alien voices united in anticipation. Citizens of the galaxy, boomed the voice of Chancellor Kavax, echoing across the arena, and through countless transmission devices, we gather today to witness an unprecedented event. Two humans, representatives of a species deemed unready for galactic citizenship, will undergo a series of trials to prove their worth. Let the challenges begin. As Aisha and Marcus stepped into the arena, they were met with a sight that took their breath away. The entire space had been transformed into a harsh alien landscape. Jagged rocks jutted from the ground, while two suns blazed overhead in a violet sky. The air was thin and acrid, barely breathable by human standards. Dr. Zix's voice, dripping with smug confidence, filled the arena. Your first trial, humans, is one of physical endurance. This environment simulates the surface of Craxus Prime, one of the most inhospitable planets in the known galaxy. Your task is simple. Reach the beacon at the far end of the arena. You have one standard galactic hour. Begin. Without hesitation, Aisha and Marcus set off across the treacherous terrain. The gravity was stronger than Earth's, making each step a monumental effort. The heat from the twin suns beat down mercilessly, while razor-sharp rocks tore at their suits. As they struggled forward, the audience watched in fascinated silence. Many had expected the humans to fail within minutes, but their determination was evident in every labored step. Halfway across the arena, disaster struck. Marcus's foot slipped on a loose rock, sending him tumbling down a sharp incline. He cried out in pain as his leg was caught between two boulders, the suit's red out indicating a fracture. Aisha rushed to his side, her own exhaustion forgotten. "I'm not leaving you behind," she said firmly, helping him to his feet. What followed was a display of teamwork that left even the most skeptical observers impressed. Aisha supported Marcus's weight as they limped forward together, each step a testament to human resilience and cooperation. As the deadline approached, they finally reached the beacon, collapsing against it as it lit up in acknowledgement of their success. The arena erupted in a mix of cheers and astonished murmurs. Dr. Zix's voice, noticeably less confident now, announced the completion of the first trial. "Impressive. For primitives," he added hastily. "But physical endurance alone does not a galactic citizen make. Prepare yourselves for the trial of the mind." As medical drones tended to Marcus's injury, the arena shifted once again. The harsh landscape dissolved, replaced by a sterile, white room. In the center stood a holographic projection of a complex, multidimensional puzzle. "This," Dr. Zix explained, "is the Gordian sphere, a problem that has stumped some of the greatest minds in the galaxy. Your task is to unravel its mysteries within 2 galactic hours. Begin." Aisha and Marcus approached the projection, their eyes widening as they took in its complexity. The Gordian sphere was a mess of intersecting planes, shifting colors, and abstract symbols that seemed to defy the laws of physics. "It's like a Rubik's Cube crossed with a quantum computer," Marcus muttered, his eyes darting across the projection. Aisha nodded, her mind racing. "And I bet the solution isn't just about aligning the pieces, but understanding the underlying principles." What followed was a masterclass in human problem-solving. Aisha and Marcus approached the puzzle from multiple angles, combining Marcus's analytical thinking with Aisha's intuitive leaps of logic. They argued, they brainstormed, They made mistakes and learned from them. The audience watched in rapt attention as the humans slowly but surely began to make progress. Symbols aligned, planes shifted, and patterns emerged from the chaos. Dr. Zix, watching from his private booth, found himself leaning forward, his earlier certainty replaced by grudging respect. With mere minutes to spare, a final piece clicked into place. The Gordian sphere pulsed with light, its form stabilizing into a perfect, multidimensional lattice. Aisha and Marcus stepped back, exhausted but triumphant. The arena was silent for a moment, then erupted into thunderous applause. Species that had dismissed humans as intellectual inferiors were now reassessing their views in real time. Chancellor Kivax's voice cut through the noise. An astounding display of problem-solving ability. The humans have passed the second trial, but the ultimate challenge still awaits. As the humans caught their breath, the arena began to change once again. This time, it transformed into a lush garden, filled with alien flora of every conceivable shape and color. At the center stood a group of beings unlike any Aisha and Marcus had ever seen. Dr. Zix's voice, now tinged with a note of uncertainty, explained the final challenge. Before you stand representatives of the Zephyrians, a species so advanced that even we have failed to establish meaningful contact. Your task is to initiate peaceful communication and negotiate a cultural exchange. You have 3 galactic hours. The fate of your species rests on your success. Begin. Aisha and Marcus exchanged a look of determination. They had proven their physical endurance and mental acuity. Now, it was time to showcase humanity's greatest strength, its capacity for empathy, adaptation, and connection. As they took their first steps towards the enigmatic Zephyrians, the entire galaxy held its breath. The true test of humanity's readiness for galactic citizenship was about to unfold, and the outcome would reshape the cosmic order in ways no one could predict. In his private booth, Dr. Zix found himself hoping, against all his prior convictions, that the humans would succeed. For he had begun to realize that this trial was not just a test for humanity, but for the entire galactic community and its openness to new possibilities. The cosmic classroom was in session, and the most important lesson was yet to be learned. The final showdown. The lush alien garden stood in stark contrast to the harsh environments of the previous trials. Aisha and Marcus approached the Zephyrians with a mixture of awe and trepidation. The beings before them defied easy description. Their forms seemed to shift and flow like living mercury, with patterns of light pulsing beneath their surface. As the humans drew near, the Zephyrians recoiled slightly, their bodies rippling with what could have been fear or disgust. The challenge of establishing communication suddenly seemed even more daunting. Remember, Marcus whispered to Aisha, every form of life, no matter how alien, must have some way of perceiving and interacting with its environment. Aisha nodded, her mind racing. And if they're advanced enough for the galactic community to want contact, they must have some concept of exchange or reciprocity. With these principles in mind, they began their attempt at first contact. Aisha started by mimicking the Zephyrians' undulating movements, while Marcus focused on recreating the patterns of light he observed on their bodies. For what seemed like an eternity, nothing happened. The audience watched in tense silence, many already assuming that the humans had failed at this final, crucial test. Even Dr. Zix, who had been hoping for the humans to fail, found himself oddly disappointed. Then, almost imperceptibly at first, one of the Zephyrians began to mirror Aisha's movements. Another's light patterns synced with Marcus's efforts. A connection, however tenuous, had been established. What followed was a masterclass in xenodiplomacy. Unable to rely on conventional language, Aisha and Marcus employed every nonverbal communication skill they possessed. They used gestures, drew pictures in the soil, and even attempted to convey complex ideas through improvised dance-like movements. The Zephyrians, initially hesitant, gradually became more responsive. They began to offer their own gestures and light displays, which the humans eagerly attempted to interpret and respond to. As the exchange progressed, a palpable sense of excitement filled the arena. Species that had long given up on communicating with the Zephyrians watched in amazement as these primitive humans made progress where they had failed. Dr. Zix, unable to contain his scientific curiosity, leaned forward in his seat, his 4 eyes wide with wonder. "Remarkable," he muttered, forgetting for a moment that his microphone was still on, broadcasting his thoughts to the entire galaxy. The breakthrough came in the final hour of the challenge. Marcus, inspired by a sudden idea, began to hum a simple melody. The vibrations seemed to resonate with the Zephyrians, causing their bodies to shimmer in harmony with the sound. Aisha quickly caught on, and soon both humans were creating a rudimentary song, with the Zephyrians joining in, their bodies becoming instruments that added alien yet beautiful tones to the melody. As the impromptu concert reached its crescendo, one of the Zephyrians extended a tendril towards the humans. Aisha and Marcus, moving in perfect synchronization, reached out to touch it. The moment of contact sent a visible wave of energy through the garden. The Zephyrians' colors exploded in a dazzling display, and for a brief moment, it seemed as if humans and aliens alike were part of a single, harmonious entity. When the connection broke, the garden was silent. Then, to the astonishment of all, the Zephyrians began to reshape themselves, taking on roughly humanoid forms. One of them stepped forward and, in a voice that sounded like wind through crystal, spoke its first words to the galactic community. "We understand. We accept." The arena erupted in chaos. Cheers, cries of disbelief, and excited chatter in 1,000 alien languages filled the air. Chancellor Kavax's voice, thick with emotion, boomed over the commotion. "In all my years, I have never witnessed such a display of diplomatic skill and intuitive understanding. The humans have not only passed this trial, they have achieved what our most advanced civilizations could not. They have opened a channel of communication with the Zephyrians." All eyes turned to Dr. Zix, waiting for his verdict. The alien historian stood slowly, his earlier arrogance replaced by a look of profound humility. I was wrong," he admitted, his voice carrying across the silent arena. "These humans have demonstrated physical resilience, mental acuity, and now, an unparalleled capacity for empathy and communication. They have earned their place among the galactic community." The admission sent shockwaves through the audience. Dr. Zix, the most renowned sino-historian in the galaxy, admitting he was wrong about an inferior species. It was unprecedented. As the implications of what had just occurred began to sink in, Aisha and Marcus found themselves at the center of a whirlwind of activity. Alien diplomats clamored to speak with them. Scientists begged for interviews, and the Zephyrians themselves seemed reluctant to leave their side. In all the excitement, few noticed Dr. Zix quietly making his way towards the humans. When he reached them, he bowed low, a gesture of deep respect in his culture. "I owe you an apology," he said, his voice heavy with sincerity. "I allowed my preconceptions to blind me to the truth of your species' potential. You have taught me, taught all of us, a valuable lesson today." Aisha and Marcus, exhausted but elated, accepted his apology with grace. As they stood there, a human, a xenohistorian, and a group of Zephyrians, all brought together by the day's events, the true impact of what had occurred began to dawn on everyone present. This was more than just a test of humanity's worth. It was the dawn of a new era in galactic relations, an era where preconceptions would be challenged, where diversity would be celebrated, and where even the most unexpected species might have something invaluable to offer. As the first reports of the event began to spread across the galaxy, one thing became clear. The cosmic classroom had learned its lesson, and the teachers had been two unlikely humans from a small blue planet in an unfashionable arm of the Milky Way. The galaxy would never be the same again. A new understanding. In the days following the unprecedented trials, The Galactic University of Studies became the focal point of a transformative wave sweeping across known space. The events that had unfolded in that arena had shaken the very foundations of galactic society, challenging long-held beliefs and opening up new possibilities for interspecies cooperation. Dr. Zix, once the paragon of academic certainty, now found himself at the center of a galactic controversy. His public admission of error had sent shockwaves through academic circles. Many of his colleagues were outraged, accusing him of undermining centuries of sinosociological research. Others, however, praised his intellectual honesty and called for a comprehensive review of all studies concerning lesser species. As the debate raged, Dr. Zix secluded himself in his office, poring over his old research with new eyes. The human's performance had forced him to confront his own biases, and he was determined to understand where he had gone wrong. Meanwhile, Aisha and Marcus had become overnight celebrities. They were inundated with requests for interviews, offered prestigious positions at various institutions, and even invited to address the Galactic Council. But amidst the whirlwind of attention, they remained focused on their original goal, securing humanity's place in the galactic community. A week after the trials, Dr. Zix requested a meeting with the human representatives. As they entered his office, they found the once arrogant historian looking humbled and tired, but with a new spark of curiosity in his 4 eyes. "I've been reviewing my work," he began without preamble, "and I've come to a disturbing conclusion. My bias against primitive species wasn't just about humans. It was systemic, affecting my analysis of dozens of emerging civilizations." Aisha and Marcus exchanged glances. This was more than they had hoped for. "What does this mean for your future work, Dr. Zix?" Marcus asked. The historian's scales rippled with what might have been a sigh. "It means I have a lot of work to do. Retractions to issue, new studies to conduct. But more than that, I believe we need to reassess how we approach the study of developing species entirely." "We'd be happy to help," Aisha offered, surprising even herself with the sincerity of her words. Dr. Zix's eye stalks quivered with emotion. "I would be honored," he said softly. As news of this collaboration spread, it sparked a renaissance in the field of studies. Researchers across the galaxy began to question their own biases, leading to a flurry of new, more empathetic approaches to studying and interacting with emerging civilizations. But the impact wasn't limited to academia. The Galactic Council, spurred by the unexpected success of human diplomacy with the Zephyrians, began to reconsider its policies on first contact and species integration. The human model of empathy, creativity, and adaptability in communication became a new standard in diplomatic training across the galaxy. Earth, once dismissed as a backwater planet, now found itself at the center of galactic attention. Delegations from hundreds of worlds clamored to establish diplomatic relations. The sudden influx of alien knowledge and technology accelerated human development at an unprecedented rate. Yet, true to their nature, humans approached this new era with a mixture of enthusiasm and caution. They were eager to learn and contribute, but also mindful of preserving their unique culture and values amidst the vast galactic community. One standard galactic year after the famous trials, a grand ceremony was held at the Galactic University of Studies. Representatives from every known sentient species gathered to witness a historic moment: the official recognition of Earth as a full member of the galactic community. As Aisha and Marcus stood on the stage, ready to accept the honor on behalf of humanity, they spotted Dr. Zix in the audience. The historian gave them a small nod, his eyes shimmering with what could only be described as pride. Chancellor Kivax's voice boomed across the assembly. "Today, we not only welcome a new species into our community, but also celebrate a new chapter in galactic history. The humans have taught us that true intelligence is not measured by technological advancement alone, but by the capacity for empathy, adaptability, and cooperation." As the certificate of galactic citizenship was presented, Aisha stepped forward to address the assembly. Her voice, filled with emotion but steady with purpose, carried across the silent hall. We come to you not as conquerors or supplicants, but as friends and fellow explorers of this vast cosmos. Humanity has much to learn, but we also have much to offer. Our history is one of struggles and triumphs, of great achievements and terrible mistakes. We bring with us our art, our music, our literature, our philosophies, the full tapestry of human experience. But most of all, we bring our unwavering spirit of curiosity and our capacity for love, extending it now beyond the bounds of our world to embrace all sentient life in this magnificent galaxy. Her words were met with thunderous applause, a cacophony of alien sounds united in a single expression of acceptance and hope. As the ceremony concluded and the new era dawned, Dr. Zix found himself reflecting on the journey that had brought them all to this point. He had set out to teach a lesson about humanity's inadequacies, but had instead learned a profound truth about the nature of intelligence and the limitless potential of life in all its forms. The cosmic classroom had indeed been in session, but in the end, everyone, humans, historians, and the entire galactic community, had been both student and teacher. As he watched Aisha and Marcus, now emblems of this new age of cooperation, Dr. Zix felt a sense of optimism he hadn't experienced in centuries. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders, but its greatest treasure, he now realized, was the diversity of life itself and the infinite possibilities born when different species came together in mutual understanding and respect. As the first starships prepared to depart for Earth, carrying alien dignitaries eager to visit humanity's homeworld, Dr. Zix made a silent vow. He would dedicate the rest of his life to fostering this new spirit of interspecies cooperation. For in the end, he realized that was the truest measure of an advanced civilization. The lesson of the cosmic classroom would echo through the stars for generations to come, a testament to the day when humanity proved its worth and changed the galaxy forever.